Okay, our filler is hardened up nicely. We're going to do some sanding on it. I'm going to start with 80 grit paper to just get the lumps out of it. Okay, got it down till everything is smooth. Going to go to up to 320 grit, sand it again. I just went to 500 on this, which really isn't necessary, but it just makes a little smoother surface for the gel coat when you put it on. Okay, that's it for the sanding for now. I'm going to take an Arc white gel coat kit and mix up a little gel coat, put on there, and then we can sand that out, and theoretically that whole thing disappears. Okay, I'm going to start out with about a ½ ounce of gel coat here. What I'm going to do is put a tiny bit of this gel coat on the original gel coat and see how close it is color-wise. That's pretty close, but what I might do is just add a tiny bit of ochre to it, just to tone off that white and get it a little bit more yellow. What I'm going to do is take that much on a toothpick, tiny bit, stir it into the gel coat, stir that up again. And you can see that it doesn't take very much of this pigment to give it color. So we'll take another little bit, put it on here, see if it's any better color-wise. That is closer, but it's a little bit dark. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another of these 1 ounce containers and use a different mixing stick so you don't contaminate your original gel coat. I'm going to put some fresh gel coat in another one of these kits, and then I'm going to put a tiny bit of the pigmented one into the original stuff so that it just tones it a little bit. And I'm going to put a little tiny bit on here. That looks probably about as good as I'm going to get on this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash off that gel coat. I'm going to add a little bit more pigment or a little bit more gel coat to this to make a little more volume, because we want to put on 2 coats of this at least to build up the thickness before we sand. So by adding, now that we've got close to the color, I just added a little bit more white in there to increase the volume. When we catalyze this, I'm only going to catalyze about half of it, and we'll save the other half for the second coat. So that looks pretty close. I'm going to take some acetone and wipe off those gel coat samples and just clean off the surface in case there's any kind of contamination on it. And I like to mask off the area where you're doing the repair, just so that in case you get a run on it, it isn't all over the place. We got everything masked off, nicely sanded, ready to put on some gel coat. I got about 1 ounce of gel coat mixed up here, but I'm only going to catalyze half of it. The reason for that is when you're doing a gel coat repair, this is a fairly large area, and when you're sanding it out, if you don't have enough gel coat on there, you'll wind up sanding through, and then you got to go through all this again. So the best thing to do with the gel coat is to put on one coat. It takes about 20 minutes or half an hour, depending on temperature, to gel, and then put another coat right on the top, and then let that harden up and start sanding to your finish. Again, put in about 8 drops, but when you're doing the gel coat, you should try and avoid over catalyzing, because it may change the color of the gel coat. Okay, put your catalyst in, stir it well. Because it's again a fairly large area, I'm just going to brush it on. It's a little easier to do that. If you're working on a horizontal surface, you can load it on a lot heavier, but when you're working on a vertical surface like this, you need to be careful about loading it on because it'll sag and run on you. Okay, that's it for the first coat. I'm going to leave that until it just starts to get tacky, which should be about half an hour. You can leave it for half an hour to an hour, and then put another coat right on the top. Okay, this is hardened up nicely. I'm going to sand it out with 3 grit of waterproof sandpaper. Start with coarse, then go to medium, and then fine. So with waterproof sandpaper, get it wet. Wrap it up in this handy dandy little block. Start sanding. Sanding and the paper starts to load up. Just turn it around on the block until you get some fresh sandpaper. When the sandpaper is loaded up, just put it back in the water and rinse it out. You can clean all this off. What I'm doing with the coarse sandpaper is I'm getting off the top surface and trying to smooth it down and get rid of the brush marks. Just as soon as the gel coat got tacky, pull off the masking tape. Much easier to get off. Okay, we've got everything all smoothed out with the coarse sandpaper. Going to the medium. You just take a damp rag to wipe it off so you can see a little bit more about where you're going. At this point, you don't want to over sand because you'll be getting close to going through the gel coat. And then you got to start all over again. So we want to try and avoid that. Okay, that's the medium. I'm going to go to the fine. The fine is about 1200 grit wet dry. That's about all the wet sanding I feel like doing, so we're going to go from here to buffing. There is some rubbing compound included in the kit. A little of the rubbing compound onto the surface. You can do this by hand if you want, but it's easier doing it with a buffing pad. patch is done. Gelcoat is done. Pretty well blended into the rest of the boat. Now you got to buff the rest of the boat to make it match your nice shiny new patch. But that's how you do it.